Welcome to the county seat. We are going to have a very interesting discussion today on the program about shared stewardship. Now, I know a lot of you have heard this phrase. We've talked about it before on the show, but we haven't really delved into what this is about and how it is changing forest management in the state of Utah. So let's start by getting you introduced to the concept.
Shared stewardship is about bringing people together, and very initially, it was about bringing the state and the Forest Service together, and it will take all of us to deal with wildfire risk.
Historically, we've always looked at these little postage stamps, 10, 20, 50, 100 acres. This one's looking large scale.
But just having a big line of defense is not enough. You have to impact the whole system.
Shared stewardship is a way of bringing folks who care about the wildfire problem together to make a very big difference.
Even though this particular site is on National Forest System land, if you go a mile up the road, we're on a totally different jurisdiction.
Our project here that we're talking about today is the Beaver River Watershed Improvement Shared Stewardship Project. We started overlapping with Bureau of Land Management, we started overlapping with the city or with the counties and with the state lands. And so we started to have to go, hey neighbors, how can we work together to not have these lines on the map and all of a sudden our treatments stop?
There is no one entity that can do this by itself. Instead, we can work together to confront the major challenges of catastrophic wildfire.
We have more tools now within shared stewardship than we've ever had because we have all the partners at the table.
We're bringing the resources that we need and the partnerships we need to be able to really make a difference on this landscape.
So this project benefits you because what we're doing is identifying those areas that are most at risk.
Where can we truly make a difference long-term on the ground to get work done that will help protect our citizens?
We have homes, we have campgrounds, we have a municipal watershed. We also have a high fire risk in this area. So this is an area where that risk and that value intersect.
And in getting ahead of those problems provides huge benefits because we won't have to invest in large-scale firefighting.
And so this is something that's been very deliberate, very strategic on when and where we're doing our treatments.
So shared stewardship is about working with the right partners at the right time in the right places.
A lot of emphasis is going to be put on the protection of these values. So we want to do these mechanical treatments up front to set our suppression resources up for success.
Mitigation is the one thing that we can deal with. We use that mitigation in such a way that critical areas are treated. We interrupt that continuity so we can affect how wildfire reacts when it hits that area.
The core treatments that we are working on are mastication, or it's a mechanical technique.
Mastication is a rotating head. They grind up or shred the vegetation.
We have thinning.
Ladder fuels are the fuels that allow the fire to climb into the canopy. If we can eliminate the ladder fuels by use of a chainsaw, which is just pruning the tree up, it makes it more difficult for the fire to leave the forest floor and climb into the canopy.
Getting rid of dangerous trees, cleaning the underbrush.
We can use prescribed fire in a controlled manner, or even wildfire at the right place at the right time.
Carrying drip torches in our hands, Terra torches on UTVs. Then we also use aerial equipment.
We have a few contractors that are now mechanically inclined. So machines do all the falling and bucking and slash gathering.
Contractors are going to get the trees, they're going to drop the trees and then pile them. We are working forward to look at the whole landscape, but we had to be very strategic on kind of the where and the when, and then allow fire to do its natural thing.
Not only are we trying to protect private property and we've got the ski resort, that's a huge economic boom, but also the watershed.
A great amount of water in Utah comes from National Forest System lands, the mountains. And if we have a wildfire come through and affect the water delivery system, that can be even a bigger deal than affecting some structures.
We're contracting with timber companies to remove saw logs and larger trees, and they're turning those into wood products.
Cut it, we're going to drop it, and then we're also going to deck it. And then long term, the plan is to sell those decks. So we are getting a product off the forest. We also looking at all the other benefiting factors. So we're trying to build partnerships. We're trying to build resiliency in the landscape because not all fire is bad. Fire in the right time, right place, and the right intensity is really good. And also we're trying to help local communities.
We're always collaborating. We're talking to them on where they're working. So if they're saying they're working close to a community, we focus in on that community.
One of the great things about being the sheriff in Beaver County is the great relationships with our locals.
We had a fire up on the mountain near the resort this year.
I was working over at the lodge. I looked out and the fire was already extremely larger than we could handle. Very short. I mean, I was very impressed with the time that everyone got up here, that the sheriffs and water tankers and things started getting up here.
These guys were so on the ball and so on top of things.
I mean, it seriously all comes together as one big group, and without those, we wouldn't be here right now. Working as a community is a real honor because if we don't work as a team, really dangerous, scary things could happen.
Our goals in working together is to really create a safer and healthier forest.
You have to do these things at large scales to have an impact and for them to matter.
Shared stewardship is about bringing people into that fold of, we have an issue, let's work on it. And that's what makes it pretty exciting, is it's working.
From everything that I have seen, shared stewardship is the big success story in the West. And this shared stewardship might be the key to having healthy forests again.
So that got your attention, didn't it? When we come back on the county seat, we will delve into the discussion of the success, challenges, and side notes of the Shared Stewardship Program here on the county seat. Welcome back to the county seat. Our conversation today is about the Shared Stewardship Program, and three people here that have shared some of that program already are Brian Cottam, who is the Utah State Forester. We have Mary Farnsworth, who is the Regional Forester for Region 4 here in the state of Utah, and Scott Dalton, who is Commissioner from Piute County, a county that understands forests and forest health very well. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. It was an interesting fire year in 2020 here in the state of Utah for lots of reasons. What does that do to inspire people to do a little bit better job of stewardship?
Well, I think what we see across forest management and fire management is when there is a bad fire season, it gets the public's attention. And what we know as managers is you have an opportunity, but it's a limited time frame, believe it or not. Even a bad fire season, it's a limited span of attention that folks have, but you have an opportunity to talk with them about what they can do to be better prepared for fire, as well as have these kind of conversations about forest management, the bigger picture, longer term, such as shared stewardship.
How did the fire season affect Piute County last year?
So we were lucky. We didn't have a terrible fire season, though it was really, really dry. My stance from this a little as a Piute County Commissioner, but also a user of the forest. The importance of our stewardship between the state and the federal government, the Forest Service, is so valid in the state of Utah because we don't, we talk about timber sales, but it's a strange thing in the state of Utah as far as timber. We don't have timber like the Northwest and really valuable lumber timber. And so the importance of having a stewardship I like the term fuels reduction, that kind of thing, is we need to get cleaned up in these forests. And luckily we didn't have any problems in Piute County, but it was a concern this year for being as dry as it was.
Yeah, given really given the number of fires that happened in Utah, the acreage just didn't seem as bad as the year prior as far as acreage, but maybe it's just because there were a lot of them.
Well, there were an immense number of fires for Utah, close to 1,500 fires total. We average, all agencies, all lands, about 1,200 fires. The thing that stood out from last year was the number of human-caused fires. It was record-breaking, and we smashed the record. It wasn't even close. In fact, we had over 1,200 human-caused fires in the state of Utah last year. That's the normal average of total fires. That's unacceptable, and we've got plans together to continue to work on that.
So circling back around to the stewardship program, there was something very interesting that was said in there about boundaries and how, you know, you guys make plans up to your boundaries and then you stop and say, well, that's where, you know, that's where my responsibility ends. This is the border between county and private property and the Forest Service or state lands and the likes. Maybe people miss how important that really is on the mitigation side. Obviously, nobody pays attention to it when you're in suppression mode. You just got to get the fire out. But on the mitigation side, how important is that in calculating how to do this?
So I think it's critical, and that's the change of shared stewardship, is we're able to work together across boundaries to do what needs to be done. Wildfire doesn't respect boundaries. And so our approach in prioritizing landscapes for hazardous fuels treatment is really important. And that's a big change from where we've been in the past, where we stop at the fence line or the boundary with our work. Now we're able to, and we're working hard to talk to each other, figure out ways of getting the job done, ways of reducing hazardous fuels across boundaries. And that's the beauty of shared stewardship.
Is this a situation where people literally are on the ground side by side? Some of your people are working with county people, not just saying, well, we'll fix it to here, but I mean literally on the same site, getting the meadow cleared or working that mountain face to get stuff done where you cross boundaries? Is it pooling the resources and not just the results?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what really sets shared stewardship apart. These conversations have occurred in the past, but it's still been, well, these are my lands, and so I'll take care of those, and hopefully it'll line up with what you're doing over there. The conversations and communication have occurred, but now it is full-on planning together. We're making joint decisions together. We're sharing our resources. There are some things that we can do a little bit better, and so we take advantage of that. We're side by side with local government and private businesses. It's really, from my perspective, but I think Mary agrees, it's the only way we can tackle the problems that we have across forest lands, not just U.S. forests, but across ownership, all forests in the state of Utah. We have to be working together with everybody.
There was a lag for maybe 10 years of no timber being harvested, and it just wasn't there. And it goes back to the fact that it wasn't worth anything. And as this effort goes on, the investment by private individuals there's been a lot of money spent to go and time spent to figure out how to get this and harvest this wood. And what's fascinating is I've watched, if they can get it on the truck, it's valuable. You know, if it's not too far away, that's one trick too. And they have to deal with this. But if it's near cities, towns, or these little counties have put in the infrastructure to deal with these. I mean, I've seen logs that are almost dust. If it'll make it on the truck, it's valuable, and to not only to the private guy, but to the county for those jobs and so forth.
I see the solution to that problem in large dirigibles that can just lift stuff out of the forest, take it to the local football field, and you can save a lot more of it.
Well, tagging on to the commissioner's thoughts there is we're working in partnership with businesses and trying to and fire specialists and everybody's coming together to figure out what needs to be done to reduce the risk of catastrophic fire. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. It's like there's not enough of it right now. The private businesses are begging for more of this, and we got to work together to get it done. But it's pretty impressive that this junk wood that I would refer to as junk that is, dead, been standing, it's laying on the ground, but it can be used, and we need to see the value, and I think we have as this stewardship has gone.
So a question directed back at you, Scott. Counties have often felt in forest planning that they're kind of left behind. It's just like, hey, I'm in the room, pay attention. And this program seems to solve some of that problem. Is it easier for your constituents to feel like they're part of the process when you're engaged in this shared stewardship?
Yeah, it's from a county of 78% federal land in our county. That's a tough thing, especially as being a commissioner. But as these programs go on, and especially this one, if we can work together, we can make our forests healthy. We need to, or else we'll have these problems. I listening to these guys talk about, fortunately Piute County didn't have a terrible fire season, and maybe even the state of Utah was overwhelmed with what was happening in California, so we didn't maybe see that. But we can learn from them too. So
absolutely.
So Brian, you and I have talked about this very topic before. Mitigation is preferable economically to suppression, and that you've been a strong advocate for saying that it's a cheaper way to go. Has this effort so far borne that out?
Well, I think we know, as a matter of fact, that it's a whole lot smarter and it costs a whole lot less to put resources up front to just avoid having to respond to the fires. I think the key for shared stewardship is we are prioritizing where we are putting the limited resources, dollar and people power, in the highest priority areas to protect communities and watersheds from unwanted fire. That's also different. Instead of random acts of conservation, which are not bad, we're really sitting down together and saying, where are the highest priority areas that we put the dollars to make the biggest difference?
I really like that phrase. It's quite catchy, random acts. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation on shared stewardship, a new program that's being implemented across the state, and we'll take a look at a couple of other aspects of it on the county seat. Welcome back to the county seat. We're talking about shared stewardship today with people that are working at it from all different angles. Do we have more tools with shared stewardship?
So I would say yes, absolutely. Not because there are new tools necessarily, but we are very determined to take advantage of the authorities and tools that we do have and really emphasize where one agency or local government can do something better, we take advantage of that. So it has increased the toolbox positively.
Do you find that sometimes regulation becomes a little bit of a roadblock, and by having another agency pick up some of that work, it actually improves its success?
Absolutely. we have all sorts of regulations that challenge us, and so to have partners where we can capitalize on their skills and abilities and their operations to make things go more effectively, efficiently, faster, those sorts of things really making a big difference right now with shared stewardship in a very short period of time.
Does that help defray the cost because there is commercial opportunity, and if so, to what extent?
So in the past, that lag of 10 years, they were having to come up with some money to pay for some of these stewardship jobs that we know them as, and as those have invested to, have the equipment and the means and the reason to have this stuff, the logs and the timber, they have some of these jobs they can put up for sale instead of using federal money. That's one thing that I see is huge. So.
Is that an exciting dynamic part of this as well? Is that, we don't have the kind of fur products that you experienced when you're up in the Northwest. So there's limited use in what our lodge poles can do off of this market. But if you can find things for scrub oak and likes, is that going to produce a new commercial renaissance that you think on forest lands?
Well, I think the opportunity's there, and so if as we see more innovation of wood products, it makes for a place for the material to go and for somebody to have a job, and so there are a lot of exciting new products coming out of wood industry.
Yeah, this is going to sound cliche, but America's great because of the Americans, and if these guys have something they needed harvest, the sub fur or whatever, they're out there looking for a reason and a need for it. That's what's cool is these guys can work together with the county, private businesses, and try to make that worth something. That's what's pretty cool about this.
Well, actually, we're going to take a quick break, and we want to save a minute for your final thoughts. You're watching a conversation on shared stewardship on the county seat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the county seat, having a conversation about stewardship. You know, just in conclusion of this discussion, are there any, we hear about unintended consequences. Are there any unintended benefits that have come out of this whole shared stewardship, things that people aren't really thinking of?
Well, great question, but I would say that I would think about it as actually intended benefits, and would reference air quality issues, water quality issues. By us working in a shared stewardship manner to reduce the risk of catastrophic fire, we're helping air quality, we're helping water quality. We have a catastrophic fire come through, uncontrolled situation, massive amounts of smoke in the air, and certainly the after effects of wildland fire. We have soil erosion, those sorts of things affecting water quality in our streams, in our water systems. So by us taking an active role in mitigating, trying to deal with forest health, reducing catastrophic fuels, we're able to really help air quality, water quality for the long term.
Isn't there also an added benefit of actually improved groundwater because you reduce the conifer load? I remember talking to the state hydrologist at one point, and he said if a conifer can find a couple of 100 gallons of water a day, it will take it. And then you multiply that by thousands. That's apparently a much bigger draw than, say, aspen stands or anything else that might hit the ground. Have you seen any evidence of that?
Well, there is research evidence for sure. Water yield. So trees are thirsty; they'll drink it up if it's there. If we do proper forest management and forests are at the stand level that they are more healthy and resilient, then we're going to have more water that makes it either into the ground or into the streams. And both of those are good.
Remember, local government and issues that are at home are much more important in your life than those ones that are far away. County Seat tries to bring those issues to you every week. Share this with your friends, share it on social media, and share your thoughts. We would love to hear from you on this, and we'll look for you next week on the County Seat. Thank you for watching the County Seat. Be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications to keep up to date on the program and happenings around Utah.